Aaron, are we ready? Okay. It's 7:19 p.m. Will you please join me for the pledge? Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Welcome. I'm going to quickly read the review of policy number 1230, public participation at board meetings. Thank you for coming this evening. I would like to read portions of the board. Excuse me?
Point of privilege. We cannot hear you.
I'll speak louder. Thank you for coming this evening. I would like to read portions of board policy 1230, public participation at board meetings. The Board of Education encourages public participation on school-related matters at board meetings, as outlined in this policy. To allow for public participation, a period not to exceed 30 minutes shall be set aside during the first part of each board meeting for public comment, with priority given to comments on items on the meeting's agenda. A second 30-minute time period will be set aside at the end of each board meeting for public comment on matters pertaining to the district, but not on the agenda. These periods may be extended by a majority vote of the board. Persons wishing to address the board shall advise the board president prior to the scheduled start time of the meeting. The request shall be made in writing on a form provided by the district and shall include the name of the speaker, the address, telephone number, name of the organization represented, and a brief description of the topic to be discussed. Presentation should be brief as possible. No speaker will be permitted to speak for longer than 5 minutes. The board will not permit in public session discussion involving individual district personnel or students. All speakers are to conduct themselves in a civil manner. Persons making presentations at a board meeting will address remarks to the president and may direct questions or comments to board members or other district officials only upon approval of the president. If you would like to address the board tonight, the forms are on the table by the door. Please complete them and give them to the district clerk, Mrs. Pena. Also, as a reminder, guests to board meetings should wear proper masks and observe all proper social distancing protocols. Okay. So we're going to switch things around a little bit just because we do have a concert upstairs that we'd like to have our students have the opportunity to get up there and enjoy while they can. I heard it was a wonderful experience today during the day. So we have student presentation, formation of the new Gender Sexuality Alliance Network, GSA, extracurricular club. So you have the floor.
Thank you, Pat.
Thank you, Patrick.
Oh, no.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh,
Patrick, are these in order? Like you want them in this order?
yeah.
Okay.
Dr. Silver, do you mind if I take your copy? Because I know that you, the Constitution.
It's okay.
Are in the
I got this.
Yeah, you need something?
There you go, Dr.
Thanks.
Silver. Before I begin, I would like to read the board's vision statement. Tri Valley Central School is the foundation of our community. Do you mind, Julia? We will continue to build a school community with deep roots that will enable our children to excel in a changing world, and that will enable our staff to continue to grow professionally. We make available to our community a safe school facility that will be a place to support family activities through school activities and functions. Our focus will support community values, and our educational plan will produce global thinking students, be effective communicators, and lifelong learners. I believe that we can do more to build a school community with deep roots founding of our children to excel in a changing world, and to build a safe school community. And this is how we do it. Hi, I'm Patrick Kelly.
I'm Julia Moore. I'm Rihanna Brown.
And we are the Gender Sexuality Alliance of Title CSD's Executive Committee.
So the purpose of our GSA is to provide a safe space for all of our LGBTQ plus community students and our allies as well. An important part of the GSA is educating the community. Sometimes things like homophobia stem from a lack of knowledge on the physical subject of the community. We wish to host activities and events to spread awareness of LGBTQ plus issues.
And we would like to host a bunch of activities to bring awareness to the community. We would love to have guest speakers, local, maybe not local. We plan to do a clothes drive for non-gender conforming students so they feel more comfortable with themselves and love themselves more. And yeah, our main goal is just to spread awareness. We plan on doing numerous activities, crafts. We just want to educate the population and make every student comfortable. All students, 7 through 12, will be eligible for this membership. Whether you are part of the community, the LGBTQ plus community, or an ally of it, everyone is welcome. We just want a lot of support and love within the community.
As far as voting goes, we will have votes online through Google Forms in order to assure that everyone has a chance to vote whether they make our previous meetings or not. All active members of the community and of our club will be able to vote on our club decisions. Our officer votes will not be prioritized in any voting scenario.
The executive committee will consist of 4 key officers, that these being president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer. Meetings will be orderly, but held informally to keep a safe and community tone, and officers will be elected at the first meeting of the fall semester, which will be an organizational meeting.
Okay, so the president. The president's job will be to plan the agenda for the meetings, as well as watch over these club meetings and just keep an eye on what's going on. The president will also have the job of communicating and assisting the faculty advisors inside and outside of our meetings.
The vice president will assist the president with the duties as requested or needed. These student duties, the vice president will take over for the president when he or she or they are absent. The vice president and the president will introduce speakers that may come to our school and help educate us.
The secretary will record and publish the minutes of the meeting on a public forum. They will handle correspondence for all club activities, and they will keep records of the agendas, minutes, and pertinent member information for personal records.
The treasurer will keep financial records. They will request funds for all of the activities that we do with our advisor's approval. They will help keep track of how much money we make, how much money we spend, and what we spend our money on.
Privacy and reporting. So the executive committee and club advisors are mandated reporters, meaning that we feel a student has come to us with information that they are either harming themselves, others who are planning on harming themselves to others, we will report it to administrators and through the proper channels. All Tri-Valley CSD rules apply during our meetings. And if any targeted harassment occurs, the advisors and the administrators will be immediately notified. Disciplinary action will be taken. We want to make sure that all members of our club and the Tri-Valley community make sure they feel safe.
second one will be a suspension from one meeting of the club. The next one will be suspension for 1 month's worth of meetings. After that, suspension from 1 month's worth of meetings and also any club activities and a referral to administration. Expulsion for the rest of the year and expulsion for the rest of high school career. If things are conducted.
So if anyone shows any sign of homophobia or transphobia towards our community and they join just to tear it out from the inside, we will take these actions.
Why we need this club? It's been scientifically proven that schools that have GSA, the students of the LGBTQ community feel safer because they have this safety net, this community that they can rely upon. And many of you may be aware, some may not be, but there have been reported incidents of homophobia and transphobia and prejudice at specifically the high school level, which we are really trying to battle, and also in the wider community, although I'm not, which I think is really important why we need this. Before we go to the next slide, actually no, we can go to It is also, and I mean no ill will or harm to the members, any member of our board, it is our legal right to form a GSA. Per the Equal Access Act of 1983, any public funded school cannot that allows non-curricular clubs cannot discriminate on the basis of a club, meaning political, religious, or or sexuality or gender.
Do we have any questions?
Any questions from the members of the board?
No, you guys did a great job presenting. I want to thank you for coming because it's not easy to speak in front of the board, even though we've seen you guys grow up. I just want to, I'm sorry, I'll speak louder. I just want to clear up some misconceptions. Our board fully supports your club. There have been comments that were possibly made or rumors that were spread that we did not support your club and what you're doing to move forward. We fully support you and we embrace you, and we think you're doing a wonderful job getting this club up and running. So if anybody else has any questions or comments or concerns, thank you very much, but I'll turn it over to the board.
What does GSA stand for?
It stands for Gender Sexuality Alliance.
It was previously known as the Gay Straight Alliance, but as of 2016, it was changed to Gender Sexuality Alliance to broaden the scope of the organization.
And we would like to thank Mr. Pulley for giving us that as well.
So I have a question for you, Patrick. So you guys are aligning within a national organization now? Is that what you're trying to do, like an FFA or an FBL club? Is it a national?
We are just trying to get started here, but I have had discussions with Mr. Pulley, and I think further down the road, once we get the firm groundwork and laid for this Tri-Valley organization, yes, we are planning on registering with the national organization, which they often provide information and ideas. I know that Mr. Pulley has printed out a advisor handbook that the GSA national organization has compiled, which I believe he is planning on giving to our advisors. To answer the question shortly, we are planning on aligning with the national organization.
Is the national organization where you obtained the Constitution from?
No. The Constitution was written by 3 Tri-Valley alumni using the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas GSA as a framework.
And the amendments, were they added after that?
I don't believe so. I believe this is bones and all, this is the Constitution that they wrote.
I think the group is great. I think that everyone should have a safe place. I just think that you guys should tweak your Constitution a little as far as the disciplinary actions. And I think that needs to be a little more inviting than as harsh as it's written.
Well, we know that there are some students, a very slim majority, who will see this club and see an opportunity to bully the students who are in it. So we want to form not a strict hard line, but we want to make sure that we will put our foot down. We want anybody who has those ideas to make sure that we will put our foot down and we will not treat any situations in which a student is made to feel unsafe lightly. But we do have an amendment process, which I believe is laid out in the Constitution. So we will definitely revisit the disciplinary actions if you think that is the right course of action.
That's my personal opinion.
So Patrick, how soon do you guys think you're going to start? When do you think you're going to invite our students to participate and you're going to start getting this ball rolling for your club?
Well, I'm
Probably
yeah.
November, end of November.
But yeah, as soon as possible we would like it, but that probably means beginning, middle of November. We would, we're probably going to have the executive committee meet with the advisors first to get a lot of the groundwork laid out. But we would like to start advertising at least that this is something that is happening in the future, in the very near future.
Okay. Do you have your executive committee in line right now, or are you going to form that as a part of your group process?
We have a loose executive committee formed of six students. However, that's one of the first things that we discussed is forming the more trimline 4-officer team.
We hope to accomplish that in our first meeting, if not the second.
Yeah.
If you guys feel threatened in any way or challenged, I think you guys should not try to take action yourselves and go reach out to your advisor immediately, rather than escalating anything. I don't think anything's going to happen here, but you should seek your advisor right away rather than escalating anything.
Well, if we plan to work through, I have spoken to the people who we plan to have our advisors, and I know that they are more than willing to not protect, if that makes it sound like we're helpless, but if we need to protect us. So, and yes, we are planning on working with, if incidents do occur, we are planning on working with our advisors first and making sure that we can maybe deal with it without disciplinary action first. Maybe it was a misunderstanding or not lack of education, but just something that they didn't know was offensive. So
Yeah, we don't plan on attacking anyone who disagrees with us. We're still going to keep it professional. We are a school club. We are part of the school, and we do represent this school. So we want to keep everything as calm and peaceful as we can.
That's good to hear.
Does anybody else have any questions or comments? No? Well, thank you all very much, and kudos to you and working with Mr. Pulley to get this club underway. So wonderful. Thank you guys for coming. So we're going to backtrack now that our students have presented. We're going to reach the part of public comment session for items that are on tonight's agenda. I do have one person who signed in to speak for items that are on the agenda, and that's Ms. Carol Montana.
I don't think I need to. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for coming. Thank you. All right, I just want to make sure. Mr. Curry, you where's Mr. Curry? There he is. Hi, Mr. Curry. Do you have items to speak on the agenda or not on the agenda?
Well, I would say I would like to comment on things after the meeting.
Okay, so you reserve your right till after?
Just reserve the right.
Okay. Mr. Walters?
It has to do with the agenda. First, before I get to that, I think to be ADA compliant, you should seriously think about microphones. You are our governing body, and this room is rather dead, and cannot understand what people are saying. These young people, I'm very glad they put this together. They did an excellent job. That's what they should be learning in school, how to present. But it would have helped their cause if some of the lighter speakers had a microphone so we could hear. Okay? But to become more ADA compliant, I would recommend you look into that. On your agenda, the first thing you open up with is executive session. Thanks to Sullivan County Community College and my long-running time at the legislature, I've learned a lot about the open meetings law. And executive sessions are very limited on why you go into them, and it's required that you go into them from a public meeting, not before. You have to state why. I see you use the litany that they always state, but if you want to go in and talk about a particular person because of a disciplinary action, you have to state that. We're going into executive session to discuss a disciplinary action against a particular person. That's it. You can't discuss all the other things. The board is only allowed to discuss those. You're not allowed to discuss any other business. You can't talk about the weather. You can't talk about some other things on the agenda. It's very specific. And it does not exclude or make exceptions for school boards. So this is what you're supposed to be doing. I wouldn't know this until this whole thing came up and I started to read that, and it makes bells and whistles goes off in my head when I see that. Sign in under open meeting law. I do not have to even tell you my name. I can come in, raise my hand, and speak. I don't have to give a litany of anything, because that becomes all foilable, and you don't want that foilable either, because that's private information. So I think you have to relook at that your thing that you have. It's all you have to do is send that thing you read, because I got a copy of it here. You send it up to the Committee on Health and Government and get their input and make the corrections accordingly. Let's quit flying by the seat of our pants. You're not the only one. Fire districts do the same thing. They go to executive session before. It's totally illegal. You have to do it from a public meeting perspective. It's time to change that. And I may not come back, but I can always watch it and see if you're listening, because there's other routes that we can take as individuals, and I don't think it's necessary. So that's the two things I'm concerned about. As far as sexual orientation, one thing about young people is more forgiving than adults.
This is Tom.
And the young people need these safety valves. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Walters. All right, next we have SWBR Architects Presentation Update and possible phase of construction project and possible future construction. So Dave, you're up.
I'm up. Corey's going to actually go first and update the board on the current construction project, and then Steve and I, St. Rebels and I, will talk about the remaining scope.
So I will raise the board plus through and hopefully they put it back down.
How are you, Corey?
Trying to keep what hair I have left. How about you?
Thank you, Corey.
Same.
If you have to.
Sure.
So as everybody is aware, we are behind schedule. We are pushing the contractors the best that we can. The plumbing contractor is looking to complete. If you look at the schedule, I had my gentleman put this together on site with the contractors the best that he could with the information that we have. We are looking to hopefully be complete in the kitchen and ready for DOH inspection by the end of next week, mid to end of next week. We are currently working on getting the Ansel system up and going. Casework will be going on up in the science rooms. The contractor ran short on flooring, so we are currently discussing some kind of temp situation so that the teachers can fully use the area as intended. The casework is scheduled to start Monday, and they're thinking 10 days to get it completely installed with the countertops. The admin office, we're hoping to have it completed with the piping and the heat on by the end of the week. The kitchen, like I said, we're hoping the roll-up door for the kitchen has a longer lead item. So that should be on site by the end of October. We will be looking to put it in sometime in November. That coiling door is not a fire-rated door. It's just a security door, which the way the kitchen is set up, the access to the kitchen can be blocked off in the meantime when the district's not using it. The lighting will be completed in the auxiliary gym this week. We're planning on doing it tomorrow. The sound baffles are supposed to be on site. Next week, we'll be coordinating with the district on getting those installed and when we can get into that area so we're not disrupting the district's functions. And then a couple things, we have pushed the EFS painting off till next summer. We have some concerns with temperatures. We have some concerns with the moisture on the building and the building drying before we paint it. So to give the district a better product, we believe next spring, summer will be a better time to paint the building. And then, as we all are aware, as we walk through the main entrance, the brick is scheduled to be on site next week. They're going to start the pillars. Once the pillars start, we can start putting the rest of the exterior shell together. The doors ran into a snag, and with lead times and shipping has become a nightmare. The doors are not scheduled to ship until sometime in November, late November. So as of right now, we're working with the contractor and with Bob and Dr. Silver on getting everything together and then putting some kind of temp door with security on it so that way this corridor right here is not pulled and the building has 2 sets of security doors instead of 1. As we get the information, we bring Bob and Dr. Silver up to speed. It's been a struggle with shipping, and it's not just on this project. I've spoken with my office. We are having shipping and materials across the board have been a nightmare on every job site, along with manpower. It's hard to get people to work. So with that, you guys have any questions or?
You mentioned the EFS. Is all the EFS repair done and it's just a matter of painting it?
Yes.
Okay. And the high school entry, the office, that was always a problem for the staff that's sitting there, that it would be so cold, even with a double entry door. You mentioned, having a double set of doors to keep it warmer. What was done to rectify that for the staff that's sitting there?
The end product?
Yeah.
So there's actually going to be it's almost 3 doors before it gets to the individual that's sitting in the office.
Okay.
So there's going to be this main set of doors outside, and that's going to enter into a security vestibule.
Right.
From there, let's assume the building's wide open, then they can walk into these main doors like we walked into tonight.
Right.
Or the building's closed, or during the day, there's another door that's going to have access on it, and then they would enter into another vestibule, kind of a waiting area.
Okay.
That at that point they can address the transaction window where the individual is going to be sitting. So
you kind of
that's a heated space.
A big airlock.
For an easy description, there's 2 airlocks.
When it's mad chaos, people coming in and out, there's nothing you can do about it. But otherwise,
unfortunately, that's just the nature of the beast with
right.
the vestibule doors. In theory, again, you're looking at a couple times a day that's happening, where it's drop off and pick up.
Right.
That time frame, but you're not alone with dealing with that.
Right.
That's
kind of no way around that.
Correct.
Understood.
And still maintaining the level of security we want to maintain.
Important. Thank you.
I don't think we're going to applaud.
I completely understand. It's been a long project and things have not gone as smooth as we had all hoped.
So as far as the elementary office, what exactly is left in there to complete? So you have the reception window that's not been completed yet.
It has not been completed. We have the reception window. We have a door. We have to correct some unit vent issues in there. We have to move Jen's panic button. I don't think that's been moved yet. We have to remove that from the ceiling that was installed to get out of the way, and then they just never moved it. So we need to move that, and then the exterior and interior doors get replaced. And what's hard with some of this is we have 3 different contracts coming into one, 2 or 3 different. So we have the EPC project. Is there a security project, or is the EPC doing that too, Bob? So we have
it's actually channeling through smart schools.
So we have the smart school. So Day Automation is doing the security for all the doors in the main office, but the capital project is installing the doors. It's kind of a similar situation we have going on with the lights. The the EPC project supplied the lights and we have to install.
Mhm.
So we're just trying to get all those pieces coordinated into one,
Okay.
and all the parts on site.
And then the elementary cafeteria, in theory, should be operational by November.
No, in theory, we are looking to have the DOH inspection late next week, mid to late next
So
week.
it should be operational probably in 2 weeks.
Or less, yes. But the security door will not be in due to the lead time. So we will have to plan that for over one of the breaks.
Veterans Day?
Veterans Day or Thanksgiving.
I'm working with you, Jen. Okay.
The other item, sorry, is we are going to be removing one light in the cafeteria. The contractor would like to come back over one of the longer breaks. He's going to do a mock-up of one light in the cafeteria, take it down, put it back up, see how long it takes him. They would like to come back over one of the breaks, replace all of the lights in the elementary school cafeteria, so that way their work is done. They're trying to close out their portion of work.
Anybody else have any other questions?
I do want to just add a little something to the construction. We work with a lot of different school districts, but it seems very frustrating, and I understand your frustration. Most every school district is dealing with very similar situations, so please understand that this, it's not just a Tri-Valley thing, it's an industry-wide thing as far as long lead items and construction materials.
For us, it's just a
Not that,
Tri-Valley thing.
all right, Tri-Valley is the most important, that's all.
Anybody else have any other questions for Corey?
Any delays on the science room, finishing that?
So the casework comes in, and they're starting to install it next week. We're told that the material delivery for the tile was later in October. So they're looking to do Saturdays and have it in by the end of October.
Okay.
In the meantime, the biology classroom is complete except for the closets. The chemistry classroom, we're missing a corner. We are working with the contractor now, once the casework goes in, to put something temporary down so the classroom can function as normal.
Is there still wet glue around? Last week during open house, there was exposed glue that were partitioned off with cones around the room, and the teacher's like, "Don't go anywhere. Don't stay to this side. Don't go over there." So.
That's the area that we've had partitioned off with the cones, because that's where we have all the drains coming up through the floor.
Okay.
That those cones will be disappearing within the next 2 weeks when we install the casework first and second shift. First shift Monday, second shift the rest of the time.
Anyone else?
I'm good.
Okay. Thank you, Corey.
Thanks, guys.
All right, Dave and Steve.
Yes, so, I just want to take an opportunity to talk to the board about where we were, where we are, and where we could be going. As the board is aware and the community is aware, a few years ago, the community approved a capital improvement project totaling approximately $11 million. Since then, 2 years ago, due to concerns from the state and everything else, the board asked and requested that we reduce some of that scope down to the scope that's under construction right now. We have an outstanding list of scope items from that project that potentially could be implemented relatively quickly if the board so chose. Some of those items are the home and careers room renovations, the media center upstairs, the toilet room renovations, some ceiling tile replacement, and then a potential district office in this space, if you all recall that scope of work. We've had some conversations with the district, and we have a couple different options that we'd like to discuss with the board at this point. First option is the work's already been approved by state ed as it's currently designed. So in theory, we could repackage that work and get it out on the street for bid within probably 4 to 6 weeks, and bid that project in early January to start construction and put together a construction schedule that includes what we know now about delays in materials and whatnot. The other option is we can look at reviewing that scope again. There's been some administrative changes, some staff changes since that scope was put together. An example to that is the home and careers room. I understand there's a home and careers teacher now who, not by no fault of their own, had no input with the design of the home and careers room. So we could organize a discussion with the individuals on staff that are affected by these spaces to review those spaces with them, make any revisions necessary. Depending on those revisions, getting out to bid might change, just depending on how drastic those changes are. If there are drastic changes to the plans, we do have to go back to state ed for approval, so that could delay things. Or the board could choose just to continue to pause and move things a little bit slower and do all those steps that I just talked about, but do them at a slower pace. And we could put together a schedule for what that might look like also, depending on how the board wants to go. I did share with Dr. Silver a floor plan, a colored floor plan that showed the work that was done as part of this project, the current project, and the scope of work that was removed to an on-hold status, if you want to call it phase 2 possibly. The dollars have been approved by the community, so it's the board's choice, acting on behalf of the community to decide on what the options are and where we go from there. Lot to throw at you in one big deep breath. I'm not sure, Steve, you have anything else you want to add to that?
Just that, given that the dollars were approved, but they were approved in a different climate and a different time frame. So there really would need to be a refresh on that estimate, because that entire scope, is it still cost the same as we thought it was going to cost 2 years ago? We think probably not, given the current labor and material shortages, so that would have to be part of the analysis. So really the idea is, if the board said, we decided this already, let's just get it out on the street, we could put in some alternates for budget protection, but just go ahead and do that. The quickest we could do that, as Dave mentioned, would get us into a position of awarding contracts in January. Now, next summer seems like a long way away, and January seems like sufficiently in front of next summer, but we know that there will be challenges. And plus the extent of work that we were looking at, I think there were 20 bathrooms. We wouldn't be able to do all that in one summer anyway, so we'd have to come up with a plan that has bathrooms being accomplished over time or over a span of 2 summers, depending on what the district and the board decided. So summer 2022 seems like a long way away, but we would have to move very quickly to put the district in position to secure contracts for that work. But if we determine, after reviewing these plans, that no, we'd like to rethink this, or we'd like to do this a little bit differently, then that would take more time. We'd have to go back to state ed, and we're probably not doing work in the summer of 2022. We'd probably be bidding for work the following summer. So is that clear? So there's if we move quickly, we can work hard, secure to get started next summer, understanding that we can't finish in that one summer. If we think we have to take a second look at certain things like the district office or, as Dave mentioned, the home and career skills room, we're going to need some time to make those changes and then review those changes with the state education department. That would put us in a position, probably of a spring bidding sequence, but probably not getting much of anything done in the summer of 2022. Does that make sense? Any questions about that?
If we get to the point of awarding, if we say we move forward with some of the projects that you're talking about, where we're getting to the point of awarding in January, and we see that there's supply chain issues like we've run into this time, are we obligated to push forward? After what we've been through this summer, I don't want to see anything dismantled before I know for sure that we're going to be able to complete it in the summer period.
Yep, and I agree with him 150%.
And we understand that concern and sympathize with that.
Right.
So,
that's where I think the planning would be to carve out those areas where work could occur.
Right.
And understanding the lead time issues. I mean, there's doors that we're hearing aren't going to be here till November that were ordered quite a while ago. So if we order doors in March, will they be here in July? These are things we just don't know. Now the question is, once you award that contract, any changes to the contract, such as terminating or changing the schedule, would be a change to the contract. So that award point is a very important point. At that point, the schedule should be part of what the contractors are bidding. But if you're already awarded and you decide, okay, we're just not gonna do this anymore, you're removing it from the scope, that's gonna be a change order, it's going to be a change to the contract. Does that answer the question?
It does, but it leads to another question. If we award and we get to the point of schools going out in June, and we know there's supply chain issues, we know we're not going to let them touch anything. What does that mean? You know, if their supply chain issues will not have us back up and running, what happens then? How does that work?
Do you mean like if as an example, June comes and we know the doors aren't gonna be here till December?
Right.
Is it possible to pause the entire, or that scope of work until we know everything's here? Is that what you're asking?
How does it work? Yeah. What do we do in that instance?
So what we would do there was, say it's the doors.
Right.
We have them hold on to the original doors. The original doors stay in the room. When the new doors come in, we swap them out.
Okay.
The biggest items would be the finishes, the tile, things like that. So, as we said, there's a lot of bathrooms that have to happen at once.
Right.
Which there's no way, even in 2 summers, that's a lot of bathrooms to try to complete.
Right.
So the idea would be to sit down with the district, get a list together and find out what areas can we work on during the school year, if that's even possible, to do some of these areas that can be done, and then turn them over to the district and just slowly plug away at some of them. Or are we going to stick with just strictly summer work? There's way too much work left if we go with the complete scope to do it in 1 summer.
Right.
It's definitely going to have to be 2 with some stuff possibly happening during the school year.
Right.
So I understand this is a lot of information to throw at you at once, and I apologize for that. What we would like to propose is that next week we take that opportunity to meet with the staff, the end users of the space, to review the scope, to see how much change, if any, is there. From there, present that to you on the 21st, at the board meeting on the 21st, and then get the direction from you, from the board at that point on what option, or, what path you'd like to proceed down. And we would know the information a lot better regarding schedule, and potential bid schedule and whatnot from there. Unless the board would like to just pause everything for right now, that's totally an option also.
I think our concern was we really got a great jump start on this project, thinking that we were going to come into school and everything was going to be, buttoned up and we were going to be ready to go. And now we're looking at next spring to have completion for a lot of these projects. So I don't want to say no moving forward, because there are certain things and portions of this building that we need to address sooner than later. And some of these bathrooms do need to be addressed sooner than later. Not all of them, but some of them.
Yeah.
So I think that piecemealing a project I would be more comfortable with. However, I do want the opinions and decisions as to what our administration and our staff would like to see happen, because they're the ones that are here all the time, and this is their building. So as long as everybody else is okay with that. But I'd also like we have a buildings committee, do we not?
Yep.
To be involved in that meeting or discussion as well. So that's where I stand on that.
When we talked about this the other day, part of doing the review next week with the staff was also asking the board building committee members to join us for whatever time they can, to go through and literally page by page, see what we can do. I think the priorities in talking about it just amongst ourselves was to focus on student spaces first.
Right.
So the home rec room in particular. Home ec teachers are rarer than hen's teeth, and that we hired one and have her in a room that is just literally unusable. I think that would be a very high priority if we can get that, and just assuming she likes the plans that are drawn up, so we can move forward without much of a delay. That would be a high priority. The ceilings in the classrooms where the new lighting is going in, rather than jury rigging the lighting, replacing all the ceilings, so the new lighting actually fits where it's supposed to fit. Maybe the weight room area to do that. The library media center. What we talked about was, if Bob and I had a vote, we wouldn't think about putting central office in here. I would think it's a good use to tie in with the library media center,
And again, creating some student spaces. We don't have a video production studio, school store, audio production, some maker's lab. We have plenty of space. We do a lot of really interesting things here. It obviously wouldn't happen next summer, but we could lay the groundwork for it happening the following summer.
So are we pushed then at that point? Do we need to make a decision at the next meeting then to go to bid in November, or do we have that cushion of waiting until January to go out to bid?
So we would be, assuming Plan A would be that there's no revisions to the documents, there's no changes. All we need to do is repackage it. We would get it out on the street, out to bid, in late November to early December for bidding the first week of January, the first full week of January, so that we would come to the board with a recommendation for award at that second board meeting. I believe there's a second board meeting in January. That second board meeting would be the award. Again, that's trying to get as early as possible into the bid schedule to make work happen, to plan for work this coming summer, if that's what the board chose to do.
So the idea of meeting next week would really be to review that scope and make sure there's a common understanding of, A, what it is it what we want, and or do I want just a minor change, or am I looking for a bigger change, like the district office not coming here? That would be a big change, so there'd be no reason to bid all that. Maybe the home ec room wants a different layout. That would be a smaller change, but still one that we'd have to review with the state education department. That tells us a lot about the schedule, right? So can we possibly do that? So really, this first meeting would be just gathering information. And from that, we would then get together and present back to the board, this is what we've learned. And the board's facilities committee would have, listened through some of that, hear what we've learned, and we'd be able to say, based on what we've learned, here are the options. And if there's an option that, gets us out on the street bidding sooner, maybe it's just a portion of the work. Now, there are risks in that too, as we know. A smaller bid package is sometimes less desirable. The bidding schedule that we just talked about, it's not at a great time of year to be asking people to come in over the holidays and put together bids. So we may discourage some bidders just by that timing that we just described. But we think awarding much later than that, is, given what we know, is just going to be a challenge. So, but we're not, again, asking for a decision tonight, but we think in order to gather the information needed, it makes sense to go through the plans page by page with, the staff that are, that should be there to review it, and the board members that should be there to review it, so that we have that information and can bring it back at the next board meeting.
I agree. I think that's the idea.
Yep.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, we agree. So
We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Pretty good.
all right. Does anybody have any other questions for Dave or Steve or Corey?
Dr. Silver, if you could please share with the board the color plans that I emailed you, if you haven't already, and then
Are those the big things you have?
the PDFs that I emailed of these last week.
Yep.
And if you could share with them the plans that I sent you the other day, the design plans, just so they see.
Are you going to leave me those big things?
These are yours. We stole them from your office.
I know. That's why I was asking whether you're leaving them or not.
Yes, I'm leaving them right now.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Safe home, guys.
See you in a couple
Thank you.
weeks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So we're now to the superintendent's report.
We're just starting.
I don't have much. It's really good because I don't have to report on the capital project, which is a lovely thing. My agenda got all screwed up. Oh, there we go. First is today is Beds Day. Or yesterday was Beds Day, which you all know is the most important date in the calendar. So enrollment numbers, we're looking at about 421 kids at the elementary school, 416 kids. Oh, that's attendance, I'm sorry. Enrollment is 459 at the elementary school, 442 at the secondary school, for a total of 902. It's down about 20 kids from last year, down about 100 kids since 2018.
Are other districts in the county seeing similar declines? Anybody going up?
Liberty's gone up, right?
Liberty was the only school district that's gone up over the last 7 or 8 years. Everyone else has been shrinking. Monticello's lost almost 1,000 kids over the last 10 years. So it's not unusual to see the drops. And that's a national trend also, unless you're in Arizona or Texas or Florida. So the second thing I have is we had the early dismissal day drill today. It went well as far as I'm aware. But the one thing we had unplanned was an unplanned fire drill this morning. So an alarm was pulled, lever was pulled. We had real fire trucks here and real firemen. It was very exciting for the little guys, and we'll deal with the disciplinary actions that we need to take. But and that is all I have, believe it or not.
Great. Okay. Thank you. All right, moving along. Are there items the board wishes pulled from tonight's consent agenda? No. Okay, I need a motion and a second.
Motion.
Motion Joe, second Keith. Any discussion? Please proceed to vote. All right, that is unanimous. Next, board committee reports. The audit committee is meeting next Tuesday, I believe it's Thursday? Next Thursday.
6 p.m.
6 p.m. here or in the...
We'll probably meet here.
Here, okay.
And also, hopefully by close of business tomorrow, the audit committee will receive an electronic version of the draft to review before Justin's here on Thursday.
Great, okay. Policy committee, have you met? No. Facilities committee will be meeting next week.
Yep.
I think that is it for our committees. There are no items of old business. We've now reached public comment session for items that are not on tonight's agenda. So we do have 2 people signed in for items not on our tonight's agenda. The first one is Justine Scully.
Hello. So, I don't know if Norma gave you my handouts. It's just, okay. So it's correspondence from me. I had some questions and concerns based upon your form, the cardiac clearance form by Dr. Elswite. So Olivia, my daughter, she's in 10th grade, she had COVID and was released from isolation on the 5th. So she was able to return to school or go to school for her first day. She was not allowed to play gym, because she needed the clearance from a physician. So understood that she had her physical examination, her annual, on the 20th. I could not take her shortly after that because we were all quarantined because of her. So I forgot the form on my way out the door. So the doctor wrote a note specifically allowing Olivia, after her full, complete physical examination, we talked about it. I was in correspondence with the pediatrician all throughout. And there was nothing that would prompt the pediatrician to further or warrant an EKG or echocardiogram or anything. So she wrote a specific note and that allowed Olivia to participate without restrictions whatsoever. So I sent everything to the school, and she still was not allowed to play gym. So I had some questions and concerns, and to be quite honest, after the non-reply, it escalated them for me. So I guess I want my questions answered. So the first question is this form required for all children, vaccinated and non-vaccinated?
Yes.
It is? So vaccinated children are also required by their physician to have this form filled out before they can participate in sports and or a physical education class?
If they've had COVID, not if they haven't had COVID. We have some kids who've had COVID and been vaccinated. But kids who've just been vaccinated.
So if you've had COVID, I guess that's another question I have. So if you've had COVID, you need this form
Yes.
filled out. That's above and beyond New York State physical examination or your pediatrician/physician's approval and clearance that you are okay or not okay.
The school physician's decisions trump.
A pediatrician, a medical
Yes.
doctor, a board certified medical doctor.
Well, our medical advisor is board approved.
Right. So he doesn't know my child, nor has he examined my child, but he has to clear my child's medical doctor's decision over whether my daughter can, or son, or whatever, can play or participate. Is my doctor's certification and degree, and she's a board certified doctor, is that not valid? Does he have the say over her? So these are my questions and concerns, and I will say that it's alarming to me when he responds and says, please comply. Please comply is, in my opinion, a bullying term. And I want to know, is this form required, is this legally binding, enforceable form? Is this mandated by your attorney? Or it's just a requirement? Because as far as I can tell from all the correspondence from your nurse and Dr. Elswike, it's just recommendations, based upon recommendations. It's not a mandate. And I called the Department of Health in Sullivan County, and it's not coming from their office, it's not coming from the state. And this is, I will say, I love my child. I deeply am concerned about all families and all children. But this has been a stress for everyone, this pandemic. People have lost work. Obviously, you've missed days of school. This community and these families can't even afford to go to Liberty or Ellenville to go shopping. They demanded a Dollar General store to save on gas, and this is a financial burden if they have to keep going for more doctor visits, more co-pays, more time spent out, more loss of paperwork. I mean, when it's simply, I just don't understand why my doctor, Olivia's pediatrician, has to be approved by the medical director if it's not legally mandated. So is this also a requirement that neighboring districts are requiring?
Every district has their own medical advisor who makes his or her own decisions about what's required or not.
So are there neighboring districts that are requiring this form?
I do not know.
And is it legally enforceable?
I'm not sure I understand your question.
So Mr. Elswike asked me to please comply. So what does that mean? What are the ramifications of non-compliance?
Well, Dr. Elswike is our medical advisor. Oddly, he's also the medical advisor for the Department of Public Health.
Right. It's kind of funny that they didn't know where that recommendation came from either.
It's ironic.
It is. So, again, why is it that my daughter cannot play physical education? Not that she's not enjoying this. My daughter is not, and this is vacation for her. But it's a required course, is it not? She needs it to graduate?
Yes.
So isn't there any, in the meantime, while all of this is going on, she's not participating, nor has she been given any alternative to get accreditation for being in class. So my son was out last week because he was sick, and as a precautionary measure, I kept him out. So when he got back to school, they gave him some reading material and a form to fill out to show that he was participating. So Olivia's been sitting on the sidelines, and I'm going to say that socially and physically that's unhealthy for a 10th grader to be sitting there like an outcast. We have mental health issues as it is. These kids don't need added stress. So there has been no resolve. There's been a lack of communication from anyone, and when there was, I don't appreciate the kind of communication I got back. It's alarming. So what else should we be complying with? I mean, I think this is quite ridiculous that the pediatrician's word is not good enough. I mean, on the form, it says that he makes a final determination. What is he determining, and what is it based upon? Again, is he going to view every single kid that comes in?
No, he doesn't review that. He reviews the forms and information provided
one
by the
form.
child's.
So the New York State physical examination form that my doctor filled out after she saw her for 45 minutes, knows her for 15 years, and additionally wrote a clearance is not enough. What is he basing it on? She listens to the heartbeat. She looks at Olivia. She's assessing my daughter. So how is Dr. Elswijk going to disregard that and just based on those 3 questions determine whether she's clear or not?
My understanding is that that's the recommendation of the American Society of Pediatric.
It's a recommendation. It's
Yes.
a mandate.
Yes, it's a recommendation, it's a recommendation from the Pediatric Association that Dr. Ellsworth believes should be followed.
Okay. So, and he's requiring this for COVID positive, post-COVID positive children and vaccinated children?
I can
That's
only
not what he said in the email.
Yeah, I can only say that it's for children who had COVID.
Okay. Don't you think based on that logic that anyone with, and I don't know, do children with asthma have to have a specific form clearing them from activities, allergies, EpiPen, all kinds of things before they get on the field? Yes. They're required with specific forms that Dr. Elswijk approves that?
Well, that part I don't know. Okay. But I know we have to have forms.
Yeah.
For the asthma kids.
Okay. So I'd like to know how he assesses that or how you then let these children play out there. Because if the physician and pediatrician is not, I don't know what you base accreditation on, or, I would think that someone voted top among their peers in the Hudson Valley would be good enough. And for Olivia to play gym.
Let me call Dr. Ellsworth and see what and have a conversation with him.
Okay. And I'd also like to know if that's a legal form. That's important.
Well, I'm sorry, what was your question?
Is it a legally mandated form?
This just came to our attention, the board.
I'm
This just
sorry.
came to our attention.
Yeah.
So I can
Yeah.
assure you, it has our full attention.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Justine.
Can we collect for private information? We should not have that.
No.
All right, come on for school. Mr. Curry.
So, her concerns, first of all, if you're requiring something more than the limit from the pediatrician, you should pay for it. And the other thing is, initially you gave a report on public address to the board. If you don't wanna hear me, don't be on the board. If somebody has a legitimate question during the meeting and they raise their hand, I think it's respectful to call on them and see. I understand you don't want the meetings to go for hours and hours. And if you get an issue that goes back and forth all over, I think you have the right to cut it off. But as far as just, hey, signing in and all the technicalities, hey, if a question comes up and I didn't sign in, I have to let it go? Is that the deal?
During the course of the meeting, you have the opportunity to
I can't
go.
hear you.
During the course of the meeting, you can, if something comes into your mind, you can go and you can sign up, and Norma will let us know that you have another concern that you want to address us with. It's the standard procedure nationwide for the way meetings are conducted, and those are the guidelines that we follow. So.
You know, I was on the board for 12 years, and the reason I ran was a lack of respect from the board to the public. I might have to do it again.
All right, thank you, Mr. Curry. Moving along, announcements, reminders, and upcoming events. Mr. Pulley.
Believe it or not, 5 weeks of school has come to an end. The interim marking period ends tomorrow, and reports will be out the second part of next week and available on school tool probably by Wednesday after.
Okay.
We had a wonderful assembly with the students today, with a band coming in, and they did a free concert this evening, and we probably got the most number of kids and parents in the auditorium or theater since a long time. So, lots of good things going on.
There's a lot of activity during open house. I think there was the most parents I've seen here in years for open house for both 7th and 8th grade and 9th through 12. I don't know, Jen, I'm sure you have a report, but it's nice to see the community coming back within the building. And to add on that, homecoming, the evening across with the bonfire and the street dance, I've heard nothing but wonderful things, and how happy the kids were to be able to congregate together and have a good time, and how they feel like they're getting back into the swing of things. So thank you very much. It's been great.
We're trying to move forward. Unfortunately, our kids for FBLA were planned to go to Orlando, and that got pulled. So they're working now on a trip to Milwaukee, I believe. So we're really encouraging
like
them where they can to go and participate and to help to rebuild those clubs that are so important to us.
Milwaukee in November is really not the same as Orlando in November.
Sounds like a fantastic trip. All right. Miss Kelly.
Tomorrow we have a conference day, and so the students will not be here, but all the staff and faculty will be here. We have, it's a county-wide conference day, so most of our programming is supplied to Sullivan County BOCES. Most of our, actually everyone will be attending the keynote address called Equity for All, and that's by Dr. Anil Alston. He is a New York State Department of Education Assistant Commissioner from the Office of Equity, Access, and Community Engagement. And then we also have explicit direct instruction training for all teachers. And we also have a focus on mental health with a resilience documentary and mental health workshops and suicide prevention as well. So it'll be a full day, and then we're already planning our next conference day, beginning of November 3rd.
Okay. Ms. Williams.
Well, I share in Mr. Pulley's sigh. September was quite busy, and October has started off to be just as busy as our last month. As you noticed, Ms. Pulley, yes, we had a number of parents attending our open house. It was great to see, a little nerve-wracking because we just have not seen that many people congregated in one place in a long time. But we had approximately 250 families represented for our open house, and that's only for our K through 6. Our pre-K has a separate event. So it was really very nice to see so many families that joined us. We were able to pull off our fire prevention day. It was scheduled for this past Monday. The rain held out just in time. As soon as the fire trucks exited, the downpours came. So we were happy that we were able to get that done. The students always enjoy that day, and we certainly appreciate all of our local fire department volunteers who come and join us then. Picture Day is on its way at the end of the month of October. And as Mr. Pulley shared, we also have the same academic benchmarks. 5 weeks are completed, and those progress reports will be going home next week.
All right. Wonderful that we've made it 5 weeks. That's great. So, any other upcoming events, reminders? I don't believe so. All right, thank you. So, new business. We have our annual independent audit report legal notice. Be it resolved, the board approves the annual independent audit report legal notice as attached to the public portion of the agenda. We have a motion and a second.
Motion.
Motion Joe. Second Rose. Any discussion? Please proceed to vote. All right, that was unanimous. Next, Sullivan County Real Property Tax Correction of Errors. Be it resolved, the board approves the correction of error applications as submitted by the Director of Sullivan County Real Property Taxes for tax map number 45.1-27.1 for reduction of taxes of $623. I need a motion and a second.
Motion.
Motion Joe, second Keith. Any discussion? Please proceed to vote. That is unanimous. Thanks, Norma. Next, discussion and possible action for NYSBA voting delegate to vote on resolution on October 18th, 2021. Be it resolved that the board received and authorizes Joseph Colon to vote as follows on any propositions put forth in the 2021 annual NYSBA convention.
And just to be clear, the board doesn't have to do anything. It's only if there's particular resolutions they want to bind Joe's vote that those would be specified in this resolution. Otherwise, there's no resolution that needs to be passed.
If you guys have anything to bring up after this point, just let me know. I mean, there's usually controversial things on there that you go one way or another. They're either really towards voting yes or they're really voting no. So that's usually the only time.
Okay.
There's never a split vote. It's hardly ever.
Right. So we don't necessarily need to vote because we approve him to vote, and we do need to vote on the. No, right? It was
if you're allowing him to exercise his judgment, you don't need to do anything.
Absolutely. I think that's why we put you in that position to begin with in the reorg. So, any comment or we're good with Joe? Okay. Next, an MOA. Be it resolved, the board approves the MOA between Tri-Valley Central School District and TVTA regarding sick bank. I need a motion and a second.
Motion.
Motion Joe, second Pat. Any discussion? Please proceed to vote. Unanimous. Thanks, Norma. All right, next, resolution number 26-20, Memorandum of Understanding, County of Sullivan and Tri-Valley Central School District through Sullivan County Sheriff's Office. Be it resolved, the board approves resolution number 266-20, Memorandum of Understanding between the County of Sullivan and Tri-Valley Central School District through Sullivan County Sheriff's Office for the time period of September 1, 2021 through June 30, 2022 for an agreed upon sum of $70,000. Need a motion and a second?
Motion.
Motion Joe, second Randy. Any discussion? Please proceed to vote. That is unanimous. Next, we have resolution, extracurricular classroom account establishment and advisor appointment for 21-22 school year. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools that the Board of Education approves the establishment of an additional extracurricular classroom account to be noted as GSA Club, and be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools that the Board of Education appoints Margaret Ali and Bethany Hamilton as advisors for the GSA Club for the 21-22 school year. The stipend will be prorated 0.85 FTE for 21-22 school year, October 15 through June 30.
Motion.
Motion Joe. Second Aaron. Any discussion? Please proceed to vote. That is unanimous. Okay, with that, there is no need to go into an executive session this evening. I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Motion Joe, second Randy. There will be no discussion, I'm sure. It's 8:34. Have a wonderful evening and a nice weekend, everybody.